Good morning, everybody, from Minsk, Belarus. Today is March 10th, 2026. It's Tuesday, and it is 11:35 in the morning. And we have a nice, bright, sunny day here in Minsk. Yesterday, I didn't make a video, so there's a lot of things that I should cover, and some of that stuff I'm going to go over really quick right now. Some of the stuff that actually just happened maybe in the past 24 hours. Donald Trump and his press conferences and things like that. So anyway, a lot to put out. So let's get started here. It seems that Trump's call with Vladimir Putin, I guess that was yesterday, they probably, and it's even been put out that they talked about the war in Iran. And afterwards, Donald Trump came out and said something that it's essentially complete, the war, that, he's acting like he's achieved all of his objectives, which I think one of them would be to get rid of the leader, and he got rid of the leader. So I guess that's, in one way, regime change. So he got rid of Khomeini, and he got Khomeini younger. So he got a more younger. I guess he's a lot more hardline and a lot more energetic because he's younger, and he's also a Khomeini. So I don't know how well that worked as far as getting a regime change. And Israel, of course, is not happy about that. But I think that Donald Trump is actually just saying, oh, it's complete. That's just to appease Vladimir Putin, because he came out and said this stuff, I believe, right after he had his telephone conversation with Vladimir Putin. And maybe Vladimir Putin made some deals with him that he will do this if Trump does that. And then, of course, Trump is not finished with the war because Israel's not finished with the war. And as we all see, Israel is the one that calls the shots on that side. Maybe the one who calls the shots essentially throughout, I guess, whether the war continues or doesn't continue, is maybe a little bit of Israel and a lot of Iran. And I think Iran is probably still not ready to end this. I think they've put out some sort of a news with some of that concerns some of these emirates and the people that live inside of the Persian Gulf, that if they expel the United States from their country, I think maybe the embassies, of course the military, that then they will let their ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And to go along with that, Donald Trump says that he might take over the Strait of Hormuz. So how can it be mostly complete if he's still planning something like that? So in other words, Donald Trump it's not complete yet. He's not finished because, of course, Israel's not finished. And Israel says they're going to just keep assassinating the Ayatollahs. And I'll tell you, I don't really know how that the young Khomeini is going to survive, or anybody for that matter. Maybe they're going to have to stay in hiding. And I haven't heard any statement yet from the new Ayatollah. I don't think he's put anything out. I haven't seen anything. Maybe they're going to keep this guy in hiding. I think they were trying to do that with the leaders of Hezbollah, and Israel kept assassinating them. A lot of stuff going on there too. So I don't know, where do I start? There's just a lot of little pieces of news all coming out. And and I guess the USS Bush, as far as I know, is still on the way. But Trump might call that off. And of course, he could always set it en route anyway. He can just call it off, and of course Putin will say, oh, okay, then he's serious. I don't know. We don't know what deals were made behind the scenes. So maybe it's something to do with Russia not giving aid to Iran for targeting of U.S. assets in the area. And maybe, I doubt very much, that the U.S. is going to stop giving aid to Ukraine that targets Russian assets, Russian troops, and of course, oil infrastructure, which is what is getting hit. And let me say also at this time, I'm going to try to put up a video from Brian Berletic that he just put out this morning. It was just some hours ago. So it's actually a fairly fresh video. But Brian Berletic has been talking about this stuff for a long, long time. And it's pretty much the same thing, and everything always seems to fit in what Brian Berletic, he's a very good political military analyst. And he was a former Marine. He's living in Thailand right now. And I was listening to him long ago, long before I even came here. But he used to even write under different names with even way back in 2011, he looks like he's a very young guy, but if he was writing even back then, he really knows what he's talking about. So I don't know, it's like some Italian name of somebody he was writing under at that time, but he'll say that in this video. You have to watch this, and it talks a lot about the long-term strategy of the United States. And of course, that's where a lot of things come in handy, is what is the long-term strategy? And the only thing I kind of disagree with him on is he thinks still the United States is basically calling all of the shots when it comes to the relationship with Israel. And I think that it's very much a partnership. But there's a lot of people that acknowledge that Israel definitely has a big hand in all of this. And I don't know, if I would just, see, I'm not going to go against Brian Berletic. I certainly wouldn't. And he would probably agree with the things I say. But what I would be saying is that why is it that if the United States takes the senior role in all of this, so why is it that all of these bankers and all of these people that run all the media news outlets and so much else are all they're all Jewish, there's no doubt about that, and they're all pro-Israel. So where does that fit in? I mean, there's so very much. You can even take this stuff into the World Economic Forum. Larry Finch, who used to be in charge of BlackRock, the richest entity on the planet, richer than any country. They're in charge of trillions of dollars of assets. They have an office in, I think that was New York. And they have one, of course, where there's a lot of Jews in New York, of course, as well. The guy is Jewish, Larry Fink, and he's got a big office in Israel. And a lot of the goals, this is just so incredible. And you just start putting all these pieces together. And I can't really do that because it is such a big puzzle. And a big goal is, of course, to reduce the world's population. And then here we have these wars, and that goes right in with killing Slavic people, as Robert Fico has put out, that the goal of a lot of these elites and all that in Europe, and it has been for a long time, is to kill Slavic people. And as I was studying history, and I'm talking about in the 1980s, I saw this in history books, old history books, that were probably written at the turn of the century, the last century. And they're talking about one of the main purposes, of course, at that time, at the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire. And I don't even know if the Habsburgs were necessarily in charge back in those days. I'm thinking around, a lot of this maybe goes back to the year 1137. And that was even the prior dynasty of Germany, was the Ascanian dynasty. That was before the Hohenzollerns, which had the last Kaiser, which was Kaiser Wilhelm and all that sort of stuff. But I read in books that one of the main purposes, and then the establishment even of a lot of these people in charge of all of these places, that was their job, was to keep Slavic peoples out of Europe. So, which is amazing. It's kind of like a pre-European Union, and there's been a few pre-European unions before that. Some even right after World War II, where they literally, right after World War II, the precursor to the European Union, they put a Nazi in charge. And there's photos, I can't remember the guy's name. I should have even prepared, but it's a completely different topic. It's a lot of history. There's even photos of him wearing his Nazi uniform, and then the same guy who was in charge of the first European Union right after World War II. I mean, we're talking about even in the 1950s. That's absolutely incredible. And it's not a mistake to say that Friedrich Merz, the leader of Germany, as well as Ursula von der Leyen and others, their ancestors are Nazis. They were Nazis. I'm not saying that makes them a Nazi. And Jesus said, don't do that. You don't do that. But it's just ironic. It's just ironic. So don't say, because her father was a big Nazi, that makes Ursula von der Leyen a Nazi. But the only thing is, she friggin' acts like a Nazi, and she hates the Russians instead of the Jews. Maybe she hates the Jews too, but she wants to kill off Russians. Kaya Kallas, I don't know about her family. They were big in the Soviets, so they were huge politicians. They were communists. They were a communist family, and they own most of their wealth, and her prominence is from Russia. And then she wants to kill the Russians. But I think, who was it? Was it Ursula von der Leyen whose husband, I don't even know who that was, who was profiting on making trade with Russia. Maybe, I don't know. But you can't make all this stuff up. There's a big, I mean, and this is even this recent stuff. It has nothing to do with that your grandfather or anything. It's you yourself. Ursula von der Leyen, she's absolutely corrupt, as we all know. You know, with the Pfizer thing, just look that up yourself. It's just too much stuff to talk about. So, I was trying to go through this stuff quick. You know, this stuff that happened over the last 24 hours, and then start getting into other stuff. It's a longer term thing, and I'll get to that in a minute, I hope. But okay. So he says he's contemplating taking over the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump. And of course, that's going to need ground troops. And everybody knows he's working through the CIA, trying to get the Kurds to be his ground troops. It's not going to look good before midterms to put American troops there on the ground. And even if the United States is definitely more powerful than Iran militarily, it's still kind of a suicide mission to try to put some ground troops there. And what do they say? Shaping the battlefield, prepare the battlefield. That's another thing. So what are they going to do? They can't use a nuclear bomb to clear out huge swaths of areas where they know that nobody's going to be left because it's all contaminated then. I don't know. And the United States doesn't have a huge amount of bombs. They still, how do I say that? It's all relative. I don't know if they would want to waste them all there. They don't have a lot of interceptors. That's pretty much been proven. And of course, they're sucking away the interceptor bombs from South Korea's, oh, sorry, I guess we can't protect you so well as we thought. And Ukraine is not getting any, and Zelensky's pretty pissed off because a lot of this stuff, and they're taking them also from these Emirates, and they're giving it to Israel because the biggest goal is to protect Israel. It's not to protect anybody else. It just shows you something. It just shows you. And, even what Brian Berletic might say, it looks like Israel is undeniably huge. Well, he even says so. Brian Berletic does say that is not to be discounted and all that. But I don't know. I put that they have a lot more invested apparently into Israel, and it goes beyond just using Israel as some sort of a military springboard or something into the Middle East where they can control the oil. And I even put out the other day that there's who was it? This director of the some kind of a energy dominance thing from the White House. It's not a congressional. It's from Donald Trump's thing to dominate in energy. Donald Trump said he wants to dominate everything, rare earths, energy. He wants to be the master and controller of the entire universe, as we all know. Hey, he even has the Space Force. I guess that's to do that. And Russia's a little bit ticked off at that, as you all know, because they're putting weapons in space. And Russia was saying we shouldn't weaponize space, but the United States, as you know, there are no rules. That's the rules-based order, is there are no rules for the U.S. or for Israel. I mean, other people, maybe even the British have to go by rules, maybe. But I think under the protective umbrella of the policy umbrella of the United States, nobody has to do anything as long as they're, loyal vassals, I guess. You get to disobey any kind of laws. If anybody is devilish enough or has the money to do things like that, I don't know. It's absolutely incredible. But it doesn't look like, as of yet, that there's going to be a lot of boots on the ground. Brian Berletic even talked about that. And it's absolutely true, because the United States, they spend like many, many months, and that's the same with Delta Force. When you have an operation with Delta Force, I'll get to that too in a little bit. It's a lot of training, and you're locked in Delta Force. They lock you in. You don't see your wife. You don't see your family. You are locked in. You get a little bit of notice, and you got to tell your wife, well, I'm going on assignment and stuff like that. So you're locked in, and all you do is train and train and train, sometimes 6 months, to go in and assassinate some leader or something like whatever, Delta Force does that sort of thing. There's no doubt about that. Overthrow a government, blow up something, and that's, doing a lot of the dirty work of the U.S. Yeah! Stuff like that. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. Navy SEALs, Delta Force, what's the difference? Navy SEALs can dive. They mess around in the water a little bit. Delta Force normally doesn't. So anyway. So Yeah, the Kurds don't really want to get involved in that yet, or at least they don't appear to be. So I don't know. Brian Berletic, he believes that maybe the United States has been training them for many months. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And of course, this thing has only been going for some weeks now. It's not even the 12th day. So what sort of training has happened? And things change on the ground. So sometimes you got to get retrained, and then it's got to be drilled into your head. That's how that works. So they go through these scenarios when you're going to these training places, and you have to set up something as much as similar to the area where your mission is going to be at as much as possible. And if some things change on the ground, then you have to go back and redo some changes because, okay, this the objective is now going to be this. That person was killed, so you're not going to go to do that. And I don't know. And things have to be redone in a certain way so that it's less chance that a mistake takes place. But in Delta Force, for example, you are not graded when you do the selection for Delta Force. You're not selected for any kind of intelligence. It's all physical, and then they believe that they can train you for every other aspect of that. One person gets demolition, one gets even how to control a country, the political side of it. And not that they're going to be the president, but they control the president or whoever is going to be in charge. And that's how that it is. Some people would call that the jackals. I guess that would be under, I can't remember his name. He used to be somebody who did that sort of a thing on the civilian side in Greenpeace and all that. But anyway, and then, there's somebody that has to learn the particular language. So essentially they set up a Delta Force team, and it's more than 5 people normally. And you have to have, in case somebody is eliminated, you have to have somebody else that has some sort of adequate training in some other areas as well. And at least that's what it was like back in my old days, back in the late 1980s. So, but let's keep going here. That's some sideline stuff. Okay, so the Kurds might not work. But at the same time, here you got the UK has sent Air Force, and they're going there. Apparently, they're already there in place. They're in the UAE, and supposedly to protect against Iran. But Iran's not going to land there, but they have Air Force. I don't know. So what is it? If a missile's on the way, are they going to put them up in the airplane and shoot down the missile? It's not going to. I don't know. What other assets did the UK send there besides the Air Force? And as you all know, France is sending quite a few ships there, as well as their aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle. That's on the way. And another important thing I should tell you guys, for Christians out there, this is actually quite important. And you know how much the Israelis say how much they love the Christian peoples and all that. Well, they killed a priest. They bombed the church, and they invaded there, and they went and they killed the priest of a Christian church in Lebanon. And of course they do that sort of thing. But they don't do that. They're all nice guys. Along with that, since it's in my head and I didn't write it, but I just saw this stuff, I've been seeing a lot of the stuff. Whoever it is, but anyway, when these bombs are landing in Tehran, what's going on is they hit somebody, they hit a building, and then they wait a few minutes, and then when rescuers come, an ambulance comes, and all that, then they hit it again like that. It's called a double tap. And Israel is famous for the double tap. So the reason why they do that is to kill as many civilians as possible. Oh no, but they don't target civilians, even though Israel is famous for the double tap. And the double tap is purposefully to kill civilians, and especially doctors and medical people that are coming there and arriving to help the wounded and to do that, to help people. So they double tap. And they maybe wait a minute or 2 minutes when people there are starting to clear the rubble and they're starting to get people in the ambulances. Bam, they hit them again. And the United States does that too. Apparently they've already done that in Iran. But that's the two countries that do the double tap, especially Israel. Israel loves the double tap. And people, all this crap that you hear coming out of Benjamin Netanyahu and anybody's mouth like that is all crap. They want to kill people. It's basically a genocide. They want to kill these people. Any brown-skinned people in the area, and a lot of them are brown-skinned too, in Israel, but they don't care. But, anybody that does not like the policies of Israel deserves to die, and that's what they do. Speaking of that, I should have wrote it down. I didn't, but it just came to mind now. So much stuff because I saved so many messages, and it takes so long to go through all of this stuff to try to put out the most important things to you guys. But apparently, and a lot of these other people that do this on these shows, they have a staff. A lot of them do. And the ones that don't have a staff, they will hit one or two topics, and that's about it. And but another thing that happened in Israel, Ben Gvir. And who is that guy? Some guy. He's an ultra Zionist, hater. This guy is filled with hate. He spits so much nails and vinegar. This guy is a real hateful, and he loves to kill. He wants to see everybody. I think he's the one that wants to see everybody in Gaza completely wiped out. He wants it ethnically cleansed for sure. But looks like Iran, I believe it is Iran. I don't think it was Hezbollah, but Iran hit his house. And they also hit Benjamin Netanyahu's house and killed Benjamin Netanyahu's brother, apparently. But they seriously injured Ben Gvir, and he might not even make it. So in a way, and I don't even really like to say this sounds like a terrible thing. Jesus wouldn't say that, but I'm not Jesus, but I'm glad that this Ben Gvir I hope he's really badly injured. I hope he's very badly injured, and that he's going to have I don't necessarily want anybody to die, but if this guy, if he lost a couple limbs and all that, and maybe he's going to have a terrible life and has to be hooked up to a machine, oh, that is so great, because this guy is the guy that thirsts after killing children. He is one of the biggest bloodthirsty killers on the planet Earth, is this Ben Gvir guy, and you all should be celebrating, and I'm sure a lot of people probably are. Very evil human being. Well, not even a human being. Wow. And there's I don't know, I won't get into that. I saw something also yesterday. Very brilliant person saying that a lot of these people, and this might even surprise you, these people are demons. They are actual demons. So it's really incredible. I'm not saying I believe in that, but it's a theory that's absolutely incredible. And it goes back even to the Bible things, and not even related to the Bible. Maybe that's in the book of Enoch, and it's different holy writings from around that same time. Absolutely incredible. Incredible theory, so I'm not saying yet I believe anything. So, and I guess oil prices now are up 30%. The other day, I don't even know if I announced it was like 22%, but now I guess it's over 30%. So, and I gotta probably, yeah. Okay. So, and obviously Donald Trump is extremely angry that they chose the wrong leader of Iran. And he said that that leader's probably not going to last long. Wait, I got to sneeze. Let me put this on pause. Yeah, so Donald Trump says the new Ayatollah, is not going to last long. I should have put this on when I was talking about the Ayatollah, but I had written it in a different thing here. But Israel, as you know, said they're going to keep on killing the Ayatollahs. They don't even care who the Ayatollah they're going to kill. And Donald Trump, maybe when one comes in that Donald Trump thinks that he can manipulate, then he'll say, to Israel, stop, killing. Maybe Israel will listen. Maybe they won't. But, it's not that, that U.S. has control over Israel. It's like Israel is one of the 4 sovereign countries. I just talked about that on Earth. And of course it is China, Russia, United States, and Israel. Those are the 4 countries that have their own sovereignty on the planet, and virtually nobody else does. Iran is striving for that, and to a certain extent, maybe they do, but as we see what's going on now, they're going to continually get attacked. And you can see that there's a trend that goes on here. And a lot of people we should all notice this. And I mean, I'll say it and you guys will know that I'm absolutely right about this. But Donald Trump, he's kind of reserving the right to decide on who should lead what countries. I mean, that's no surprise. We all see that. But he wants, and they used to call that meddling in elections and things like that. Oh, and Russia's meddling, and, remember all those days back there in the Biden and Obama times, Russia's meddling in the elections and, all this sort of thing. But how come nobody says it now when it's very clear that Donald Trump meddles in the elections of I mean, even Biden did. They all do. The United States meddles in every election. And it's not just, they want to see who the leader of Iran will be, and Donald Trump wants to decide that. Well, what about Honduras? Donald Trump threatened Honduras unless his choice of the leader makes it. And remember that election? And that took weeks because that guy didn't win. And they had to keep finagling and doing stuff to make it so that guy wins, so that he looks like he wins. And I guess that guy was a narco-terrorist. This guy, he was a drug dealer, he's in charge of a big drug cartel. Well, then what about Maduro, where there is no evidence or nothing that shows that he has anything to do with any kind of drugs? It's absolutely amazing. And of course, Donald Trump, he's very responsible for putting Milei in charge of Argentina. And of course, he's in love with Milei because Milei's in love with Ukraine and in love with Israel. And of course, Donald Trump. It doesn't matter how incompetent this Milei is. I mean, and the guy is very radical. He's also far from being a conservative. I talked about him in other videos too. Absolutely incredible. But Donald Trump decided that he's going to be the leader. And he wants a big choice in who becomes the leader of virtually any country. And as you know, they keep trying to depose Lukashenko, and they want to put Tikhanovskaya in there. And now she doesn't even have any support so much really even in Belarus or anyone. And I'll tell you what, I'm living in Belarus, so I can vouch for one thing. And I've talked to people that don't like Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus right now. And I can probably convince them why they should like Lukashenko, even if they don't like him as a person. You can hate him for anything. And Lukashenko, let's be honest, he's a hard ass. He is a hard ass guy, But look at the country. I mean, it's like, I don't really give a crap. I'm not going to go have a beer with that guy. We're not, should we go pick up some ladies or something in the bars? Come on, look at this one. She's pretty hot. I mean, are we going to do that? I don't think so. But this is a great country to live in. And that's all that I really care about. And that's what these people should think about. And they think that they should all be rich. And they watch sitcoms from the United States on TV, and they think that that's how Americans live. I don't know. Do they never see any of these videos with people, dying of fentanyl poisoning in certain, there's a lot of areas. There's in Seattle, there's in San Francisco, it's not just Kensington Avenue. And look up Kensington Avenue on YouTube. You think that you're in a zombie movie. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And all the shops are virtually closed. And it's terrible. It's really, really terrible. I don't know if Donald Trump's going to be able to get a hold on that sort of a stuff. I mean, I was saying there's a lot of good things that Donald Trump seems to be trying to do, at least domestically. Then you hear these statistics that says Biden and Obama actually sent back more illegal immigrants than Donald Trump. But I don't know. Maybe Donald Trump just likes to broadcast it, And I don't, who was this Kristi Noem. Anyway, the real hot girl, lady. She was, I think, governor of South Dakota. And everybody's blaming her. She's following through what Donald Trump told her to do. So I tell you, terrible. I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with her. She was in a bad position, And it's not like she ordered these ICE people to kill those two people. And it turns out that these ICE agents, they might not have had any law enforcement training, anything whatsoever. And they had 47 days of training before they put them on the streets. And that's probably why some of these people ended up shooting and killing people. I mean, and pretty much wrongfully. I mean, you could have handled things a lot differently rather than killing this Pretty and this Renee whatever Good and Alex Pretty. You know, it's terrible. Anyhow, but let's keep going because I'm getting off on sidetracks. All of this news that comes out. So Donald Trump wants to, decide on who is the leader of any country. So I don't know. Is Israel going to keep on killing him until Donald Trump, until they put in one that Donald Trump likes? I don't know. So, and remember on Sunday, I said that announcement, that was the initial announcement. A lot of people are now talking about that Ali Larijani, I guess he's the security leader of Iran, he put out that they had captured 7 American, he said several American soldiers. Some people are putting up the tweet. Maybe it's on X, I don't know. But they're putting up the message on the internet. You see it on the YouTube, on some channels and all that. And so that's all out. Luckily, I was one of the first to put it out. But anyway, he said several Americans. But I was watching George Galloway, who's actually, he was a member of parliament, and he's normally, pretty good. And he's very good at he's very good at speaking, and he's very entertaining to listen to. And he's, of course, a very moralistic person, and he's got contacts in Iran and all that. But he was saying that the Iranian government has officially announced that it was 173 U.S. Delta Force. And I don't think that that's true, for one thing. Delta Force does not go around in big groups like that. You might have the Green Berets that do that. And but it's not the Delta Force. The Delta Force, as I kind of told you, I don't know, maybe there would be 14. I highly don't think there would be any more than that from Delta Force going around. And it's also that this has only been going for 10 days, and they would have had to been training. Maybe they have been training for quite some time, but like again, 173. And I guess they said also a lot of them are dead. So that's the ones that they apparently, maybe that was the total. Maybe he misunderstood something, or maybe somebody miswrote something. So maybe the total was 173 soldiers, and maybe some of the ones that they have, the several, maybe it's just several, maybe some of those are Delta Force. That is very highly, highly likely that could be the case. And of course, the United States is not saying anything about that. And a lot of people are talking about that. Why is the United States so silent that Iran has some hostages? So it might be altogether 173, and several of them are still alive as prisoners. And I don't know, Iran is not really broadcasting that so much either, I don't think. So, Green Berets, it's... I should know more about that, but I don't know that much about Green Berets, even though I'm from Washington State, and they have like one of the biggest contingencies of the Green Berets is in Washington State. When I was doing this entry test, it's physical tests or something to go into the Delta Force. I wasn't in Delta Force. Let me make sure of that. But I was doing this test, and one of the guys was a Green Beret. And of course I beat him. I beat everybody because it's all physical stuff, And one of the, some of the things you got to do is you got to do like spider walk backwards on your feet, the balls of your feet and your hands, and you got to maneuver around some stakes and things, and you got a time or something. Well, I guess you go by time and how fast you can go this and weaving in between stakes, and then just running in between the stakes, and then running, I think maybe, was it 2 miles? I can't even remember. And one of the things is like you have to stay afloat, like in a pool, I think, with your full combat gear, including boots and a backpack and all that. You just have to stay afloat. So, not very difficult crap. I can't swim worth a damn. If it was if it was seals, you can forget it, you know. I'm glad I didn't even, it was my eyesight. I couldn't get in because my eyes are terrible. And I don't know, maybe now that they have these eye operations, I'm glad I didn't do it anyway. Can you imagine getting sent in to murder people? Anyway, so the biggest, hey, back in those days, I can, you know, it's not just Fort Lewis. I was even at Bad Tolz. Bad Tolz, they had, they called Special Forces. Delta Force, yeah, but it was Special Forces. It was a little bit different kind of. They had different missions, and that was in Bad Tolz, way down near the, you know, right. It's not really near. It is near Garmisch-Partenkirchen, and all that. So that's down in the southern part of Germany. And yeah, I tell you what, you get up and when like people that are there on the base for other types of training or missions or whatever the deal is, you know, if you're doing, you know, if you're in the Special Forces there, you've already gotten up, you've eaten breakfast and everything, and some, you know, times it's you know, and you've done your things already, and you're already coming in from physical training and doing all kinds of, like a little mission, while these other people are just now going to breakfast. It was, so you know, you do things starting at 4 a.m. And in a lot of these posts, I'll tell you what, in the Army, and it's a lot, I think, leadership schools as well, you have to get up at 4 a.m. And when I say that you have to get up, you have to get up. You have to get up at 4. And you go to bed at 11. You don't go to bed at 10:59. You go to bed at 11 at night, and you get up at 4 a.m. Because if you go to bed earlier, you're kicked out. And if you get up later, you're kicked out. So but a lot of the people grading and watching and doing all this stuff, they're not even there a lot of the time. I was with another sergeant. Well, I think we were back then. We were like corporals. But this guy, and he was one of my soldiers, you know, and he made sergeant a little, you know, some after me. But we were on bunk beds. He had the bottom, and I was on the top. And a lot of time, I'm almost dressed already, and he's still laying in bed. So, and he never got caught. The guy's it's you know, his former job, he used to be an Army scout, but I don't know how he got away with it. But anyway, he did. So, but there's somebody out there from Washington. I don't know. I'm sure the guy already knows Fort Lewis, Washington. It's kind of in between Tacoma and Olympia down there. So, and McCord Air Base is kind of right across from that. Anyway. So, yeah. Bad Tolz. They got rid of those. I looked it up even, and it was until I left the military at about 1991 or so, and that's when it was discontinued. My unit was being discontinued because we were on the front line. They pulled us all the way back to Rheinhessen, and further, it's even closer to France than it was to East Germany back in those times. You know, so everything was changing back then. Cold War was getting over. Okay. So, did I even mention, I had mentioned an Ayatollah. I might have forgotten to say this to you guys because I forgot all about this and the information comes. I mentioned the name of an Ayatollah, and this Assembly of Experts, they call the Secretariat of Assembly of Experts, decided on a different one, which was the son of Khomeini, which is, amazing. I think I probably left that out. I should have said at the beginning of the video. Oh, I have to throw the video away and start over. I'm just kidding. But the reasons they did not ratify him, it's actually kind of crazy, and it's actually one reason, really. It's that actually, because there were instructions, believe it or not, from Khomeini, the original Khomeini, the guy that got killed, but you know, that whoever bombed that complex and killed him, that the one you should choose for a leader in case of his death is the one that is the most unacceptable to the West. And Donald Trump had come out and said that his son, Khomeini, is unacceptable. So that is why they chose him. And that is why Donald Trump is really pissed off. And it turns out the guy is more hardline, at least in many ways. I don't know. Iran has been changing anyway. So a lot, as you see, a lot of women. I think it used to be maybe many years ago, and I remember talking with Iranian girls back in those days in Germany. Then you had to wear headscarves and things like that. And of course, these girls that I talked to, and it was one and her sister and all that, real good-looking girls. And they said, yeah, well, so what? We wear it outside. When you come inside, you take it off. You have makeup on your eyes, things like that. You do what you want to do and all that. And it was a pain in the butt, but they didn't mind it so much. And, but anyway, that's changed in Iran anyway. So I remember even seeing Muslim women really, really nice. And they had headscarves on. A little bit of their hair was showing. And they still were wearing makeup. This is in Germany, and it's like, wow. But I don't know. But you don't have to. Especially you wouldn't have to in Germany. And I don't know. It's not my deal, so I don't care. Okay. What else? I guess, I don't know, Donald Trump deciding on who's the leader of every country. That's democracy. I mean, they have to spread democracy. I don't think Donald Trump ever says spreading democracy, because what Donald Trump practices is definitely not democracy. And it also makes you wonder. Some people are even making comments, and they said that Donald Trump is going to probably, he might cancel elections. I don't think he's going to cancel elections. And I don't think that he can possibly, if we had an election today, he couldn't possibly win. And if he actually looked like he did, there would be riots in the street. There would be no doubt about that. Even half of Donald Trump's base, well, maybe 3/4 of it. But I think maybe a lot of people are getting scared. Donald Trump, like I said, he knows how to get and wield power. That is one of his things. Donald Trump, he's not a very smart guy. There's no doubt about that. Donald Trump is low IQ. He accuses people with higher IQs to be of lower IQ. And I guess that makes him feel good. I guess that's called projection, right? Accusing your opponent of what you yourself are guilty of. So Donald Trump is definitely, and there's no doubt about it, he's a low IQ guy. And there's people that say he's probably never even read a book in his life. He doesn't know much of anything about anything. He knows how to make money. There is no doubt about that. And Donald Trump uses brute force. He uses power to get money, and that's another thing. So he understands something extremely important, what would be very important to a lot of people. How to be a bully, making, to get money and all kinds of things like that. It's not something you would call intelligence, like I said. And Donald Trump is not a very intelligent person. He's not conservative. There is no way that Donald Trump is a conservative, because you can look up the definition of conservative. So Donald Trump, he pretends to be certain things, and he's not. There is no doubt about that. I could argue till the cows come home about anybody who's going to disagree with me on all of that. And I think anybody with 2 working brain cells would agree with me. So, yeah. What else do we have here? Yes. I don't know. So we have to see if the new leader, the coalition of pedophiles, or the pedophile coalition, is going to kill that guy. And I don't know. Like I said, they hacked into CCTV cameras. And actually, as a matter of fact, even in Israel, they're tearing down CCTV cameras. They're very paranoid in Israel. So they believe, what's one good thing? You ever heard that expression, a liar doesn't believe in anyone else? So that's maybe why the United States and and Israel, they don't trust Iran, because they themselves are liars. So they think everybody else are liars. That's what the whole expression means. A liar doesn't believe in anyone else. So in Israel, they're tearing down the CCTV cameras. And maybe Iran does know how to hack into those, because Israel does. And they're watching everything going on wherever there's CCTV cameras in Iran. Absolutely incredible. Yet I don't even know if Iran is tearing these things down. I don't know. I had never saw anything about that. All I know, and it's literally millions of people are on the streets and happy that they have this new Ayatollah. And they're very happy. And it's like, there might be, who knows, 3% of the people that don't like the government. There might have been more than 10%. before. But now it's far less. Now they are all rallying around the government of Iran. And Donald Trump, he just created a monster. And the more he's going to keep this thing going, Trump and Netanyahu, the more they're going to keep the bombing, the more you're going to create anti-American people for your future. There's a lot of young people that see what's going on there. So he has just created another generation of people that are going to hate America and Israel. Good job, guys. Wow. Yeah. So Satan's representative on earth, Israel, said he's, what was it, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, he's got a big surprise coming for Iran. You know, we've been hearing a lot of this stuff. Oh, now the big attacks are going to come tonight. And they keep saying this stuff. Iran is a big country. I guess they can absorb even if they double it. And I think they've even said they're going to quadruple the attack or something like that. But of course, Israel does not necessarily have the means to do that. And the United States might for a short time. But Satan Yahoo, you know, the leader of Israel, he said that a big surprise for Iran is coming. And a lot of people think that he's going to be using a nuclear bomb. And that's not going to be a good thing. I think Iran, they are going by the belief that whoever uses a nuclear bomb loses. I mean, you lose. Even if you destroy tens of thousands of people, you automatically lose. And, you know, the only country that has ever used nuclear weapons is the United States, twice on civilians. They didn't bomb a military, and they dropped 2, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it was meant to kill civilians. Oh, but we don't target civilians. Yeah, right. You know, double taps and all that sort of thing. And of course, they even have footage. They now have footage of a Tomahawk missile landing on that school, flying right into that school, and you know, where they killed 171 children. And Donald Trump, he was asked by reporters, you know, says, well, now that the evidence is in, you know, because everybody's, you know, they keep coming these things that the United States, you know, and he's kind of saying, well, Iran has Tomahawk missiles. And then I think that lasted for about 5 seconds until the next reporter said that. And anyway, Donald Trump kind of had to concede the fact that Iran does not have Tomahawk missiles. And he says, well, I guess I have to go with what the report says. And that was the end of that. So in other words, Donald Trump has actually been caught. He knows very well that the United States sent a Tomahawk missile and killed all those children. And Scott Ritter, he came out and he was speaking to Rick Sanchez, who's based in Moscow. Here, he used to be with CNN, and it was on a show. And Scott Ritter is basically trying to, you know, and I kind of appreciate that a little bit. He's trying to say, kind of that it was a mistake. And the United States had sent 4 Tomahawk missiles, and one of them, the 4th one, was loitering. And there was like that the other 3, they had hit Iranian National Guard buildings or something in the near area. And even though they were evacuated before that, so they didn't kill anybody on those 3. And then he said that, the satellite, you know, this one Tomahawk missile, apparently, you know, he's an artillery guy. He probably knows more than I, but maybe he's trying to help the U.S. and I kind of don't necessarily. I'd have to see more information. I don't want to, you know, because Scott Ritter's a decent guy, very intelligent. He is a very intelligent guy. He's actually an intellectual, in my opinion. But anyway, he was saying, maybe it's because he's on the side of military people, and I am to a certain extent too. But it's not the military people that ordered this strike necessarily. And, you know, he was an officer class. I was a non-commissioned officer. So maybe he is, you know, saying this stuff because of, you know, the officer class. But he said that this 4th missile, the other 3 had hit these buildings, and the 4th one was loitering. And I'm almost 100% positive that Tomahawks, they don't have that capability to be kind of circling around the area. And he said that had like a camera and they saw that there were people running inside of some building or something like that, and that they said, oh, soldiers or whatever, and that I don't know if it was AI, or they said, okay, bam, and they sent that missile, and killed all those kids and things like that. For example, not being able to tell that they are kids, but I don't agree, and I don't necessarily believe in any of that stuff that he basically said. And in my opinion, you could not have done that without knowing that, and there might, as far as I know, I didn't see there was no smoke around the area when they showed that this missile hit. So I don't see that they hit any of these other buildings around there. There's nothing there to prove that. And so all of a sudden, and apparently that is the Tomahawk that hit that thing, and they showed that in the film, bam, and it destroys this building and killed all those kids with no other smoke or anything around, any other areas around there. I think they purposefully killed these kids. They purposefully did that to demoralize. And I have been taught this, and I'm telling you guys this, and this is the honest to God truth, that the United States kills civilians purposefully. I mean, I don't know. Is YouTube going to not let this video up? Are they going to play these games or something like that and have 15 hours before it gets uploaded or what like that? They're certainly not going to put this in anybody else's feed, because they don't want people to hear this stuff. And this is the honest to God truth. But I was in the military. I was in 8th Infantry Division. I was in Army Intelligence. I worked for the top generals of the United States military. And, I probably even told you already, I sat next to Ronald Reagan eating dinner one time at a farmhouse restaurant that was rated very high in Michigan. I mean, anyway, but that doesn't matter. But I know that these guys do this, and they've even said this, and I've talked to some of these officers and things like that, even though most 99.9% will never talk to me, they're not allowed to. Maybe just because they didn't know that maybe I'd be having a YouTube channel and be saying this sort of stuff. But they do this. They do it on purpose, and it's to demoralize the country and to demoralize the people like that. They don't really understand that Iranians have a little bit different. They care very much about their people, and so do the Russians. But it's not the same as, say, Europeans. They're acting as if they go into war against Europeans of the earlier generation, and we're talking even about the 1800s and things like that. Because nowadays, you look at Zelensky, he doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a crap if he sees 20,000 of his own people slaughtered right in front of his eyes. He's not going to give a crap. We all know that. He sends thousands and thousands of people to the meat grinder. Zelensky's there for Zelensky. Zelensky's getting huge amounts of money, and that helps him get a lot of money. Oh, poor me, poor me, poor me. Give me money, give me money, give me money. We all know that. We all see this stuff. Everybody knows the scheme that's going on there. But Americans, they do that, and they tell you what. And I mean, like I told you, we're taught these things. Kill them all and let God sort them out. I mean, there's a lot of this crap. You saw Pete Hegseth, he's out there and he's saying all this stuff, kill, 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 and then when it's a lot of cameras going, it says, we don't purposefully target civilians. Yes, you do, and I know that you do, and I know that for a fact, because we were told to do that, to demoralize the enemy. I mean, it's a sickening thing. It's a really sickening thing. And if Scott Ritter doesn't say that, he's holding something back. He's definitely holding something back. He knows that very well. I don't know. Was he in some different circles than I was when he was in the Cold War as well. They've trained you to be killers. That's what it's all about. They train you to be killers. And that's why you see a lot of the stuff that happened in Iraq, these people going out, and killing families and dousing them with gasoline and burning them alive, in Iraq. A lot of stuff was going on. You know that stuff. Don't be dumb. Oh, I only heard little things. Do you think the news is going to report that stuff to you? So, anyway, let's just leave it at that. And actually, send this to somebody else and then show my rant. Show my rant, and maybe some people will play this in different countries, in Iran or India or Iraq, I don't know, any of these countries, and to hear what it's really like. What it's really like, What was it? it wasn't the first day, the second or second, it was like the second day. We didn't even get uniforms yet when I first got into the Army. And I was sent at Fort McClellan, Alabama at that time. That was where the chemical center was, where and the MPs and the chemicals, where they go for their training and all that. So I don't think we even had our uniforms in yet. And when we were told, that when this one guy in charge of this one station, as soon as his foot touches the grass, we're supposed to all yell out, "Blood makes the grass grow, kill, kill, kill." And I was thinking right there, I said, what the hell did I get myself into? I said, I had a very terrible feeling in my, and luckily it was not so bad all the way through. The message was a lot more subtle. And then depending on what kind of a unit you go to, and I think earlier times it was not like a combat unit that I went to, so we didn't really hear so much of that stuff, thankfully, except in the 8th Infantry Division. We heard some of that stuff, but let's keep going. Too much of a tangent. I'm already at an hour nearly. Okay. So Netanyahu says a big surprise is coming. I don't know. Nick Fuentes, he even thinks a nuke might be on the way. Nick Fuentes isn't an expert on anything, but they keep putting him on a lot of channels, and it's always interesting to watch him. Some people say he's entertaining, so I as long as it's short, I'll watch and see what he has to say. So he also thinks that Iran was making a nuclear bomb, so for what that's all really worth anyway. Did I talk about that there were survivors, and some that even spoke English, that I already mentioned this, the double tap. So there's witnesses saying that Israel and the U.S. are using double tap to kill more people, innocent civilian people, in other words. Yeah. Okay. Okay, but it's sickening to say, "Oh, we don't target civilians," and that's the point I was trying to make a minute ago. They do that, and they do it on purpose. They do it to us. They don't want. I'll tell you what, that was a disaster that they killed all those girls. But maybe I don't know why they would do that. That was too much. Okay. Kaya Kallas, a day or two ago. She mentioned that this is kind of a weird thing, that by now, up to date, they have given Ukraine 195 billion euros or 225 billion US dollars. She says that they are now the biggest giver of money to Ukraine in the world, more than the United States, apparently. And she also said, or it's already been put out, that does not include this 90 billion, which is 106 million US, 90 billion euros that is on the way, that is at the moment being blocked by Orban. And I think Robert Fico of Slovakia said that, well, if they can get rid of Orban, that he's going to be blocking it, that he'll be blocking it. And if that does go through, that would mean that the EU sent 315 billion euros, not dollars. What is, I don't know, what is that, and that's, of course, there's actually more money that goes, but that's the official money. So that is just from the EU. And what about the United States? That's over 300 billion, definitely over 300 billion. And what about the UK? The UK is not in the EU, so they're sending a lot of money as well, too. What about Japan, Australia, and other countries? So can you imagine the money that is going into Ukraine? Where is all that money? We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of euros, dollars, whatever the heck you want to say. Absolutely incredible. And that reminds you of just a few days ago, Hungary, they stopped this convoy of these vans. And these vans were, I don't know if it was I think it was on the way to Ukraine. And in these vans, they had hundreds of millions of US dollars. And I think they had over 100 million euros. And they had a lot of gold bars. And this was all going into Ukraine. Or maybe it was leaving. I'm not even positive anymore. But anyway, it has to do. And Ukraine is, of course, pissed off. And I think Orban said, and the Cesaro, the foreign minister, said they're not going to give it back. Ukraine is threatening Hungary to give them all that money back, I guess, or that's their money, I don't know, or the money that was coming in. And I think Orban said that he's not going to give it back until he finds out who it was going to and what's it for and all that. And Ukraine hasn't given an answer. Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? You would think that Ursula von der Leyen would step and say, oh, well, that is some of this money that we had promised to them before, and we just are sending it to us now. But that's a lot of money. I mean, did I say, oh, it was millions. What is it? Hundreds of millions. Oh, that's a lot of money. It's a huge amount. It's filled with these, and gold bars. And you know how much gold is worth now? Wow. Okay. So the total amount already that's gone to Ukraine is undeniably at least $500 billion. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine $500 billion? Yeah. For a war that they're losing, and they're even losing. And what about all the lives? It's almost undeniable that it's 2 million. Ukraine itself said, like it was 5 months ago, they said that they had lost 1.7 million people, I think deaths, on the front lines. Wow. I think it was deaths. I don't think it was people that are so completely incapacitated, like lost limbs and all that. Absolutely incredible. And Zelensky, he would really be willing to be Donald Trump's boots on the ground, but if he wasn't busy there. So maybe Putin was talking with Trump and said, well, why don't you end this war, and then you can send the Ukrainian people there, because Zelensky will certainly jump right in there, send them to another, from one meat grinder to another. The butcher Zelensky. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was just talking also about these people, and it's a lot of them, and it's the upper class, political and otherwise, in Europe, and they want extermination of Slavic peoples, and they love to see the Ukrainians getting killed as well. And it's very strange you got Zelensky, who's helping them out very much. Robert Fico, the leader of Slovakia, he's even come right out and said that. Robert Fico has said some absolutely tremendous things. You should see what he said about the COVID stuff and the whole thing there. You would be so shocked that a world leader, knows exactly everything about what was going on, about this whole thing, about the COVID thing and the vaccines. Absolutely incredible. So that's why I love Robert Fico. I love Robert Fico of Slovakia. You have to look up some of the things he said. But like these people, they want to exterminate Slavic people. A lot of these people in Europe. Look at Lindsey Graham. He's so happy. I don't know. I can keep going on that too, because it pisses me off so much. And Brian Berletic, he would call that continuity of agenda, but I think there was a term that was used, I think even maybe back in my day, I think that's how I remember that, continuity of government. That might even be, I think I remember even hearing something like that in this, I think it's a movie with Nicolas Cage, National Treasure, and I think they even called it continuity of government, and it's like, that's why things never change, and every president is a warmonger, and that's why maybe Donald Trump is doing everything the opposite of what he promised to do, the opposite. And people are playing tapes and, this stuff. And Donald Trump sounded so good back then. And now he's doing the absolute opposite of all of the stuff that he said he's going to do. I'm not talking about just that he said he's going to go after the pedophiles, but he talked about these globalist wars and how wrong it was in Iraq, and he's doing something far worse in Iran. Absolutely incredible. And it's a war for Israel. I don't think he said anything about that being a war for Israel, even though people were talking about it even long ago, that all these wars are for Israel. So he didn't maybe say that. So maybe he knew, maybe back then he was a willing slave of Israel. But I don't know. Jewish president, I guess you can expect something like that. So is he going to be successful with the Kurds? That's another question right there. He's still working on that with, through the CIA. So I keep seeing stories coming up about that. But so he maybe wants to use the Kurds as the United States uses the Ukrainians as a proxy force against Russia. So maybe they're gearing up. Okay, this is going to be a pretty long time war, and we need to get some boots on the ground to be fighting for years now. And Trump will back off. Oh, see, we're not doing it. We're, and he's acting like he's not involved with the war against Russia, but he certainly is. And like I was mentioning Brian Berletic, and Brian Berletic, he's, like I said, he's very good, and a lot of these people are very connected, and they have friends. And it's known that the CIA is also heavily involved in targeting oil facilities, the pipelines, and all of this stuff in Russia. And they're going to be going after, I guess, what do they call one is the Blue Stream? I don't know, but the Turk Stream. They're trying to bomb that. They have operations now. And the British, of course, have been helping that too. It's mostly the British were helping in Crimea. A lot of things in Crimea. Maybe, Boris Johnson had even showed that he was very interested in the Crimea. The British wanted the Crimea in the 1860s. So I don't know. This stuff has its roots in history as well. It's absolutely incredible. Okay. But the U.S. they were involved in Ukraine even back in the at least in the 50s. I remember seeing that. They did not grab Bandera right away. The Germans used Bandera big time, but they were scared of Bandera, so they put him in prison, and they allowed him to run operations, mass murders as well. The things that he was even in charge of. But a lot of the time there were German Nazi people that were in charge, and then the Ukrainian Nazis gladly did all the bloodiest work, the wet work, the killing of a lot of innocent people and things like that. And there's a lot of horror stories. Like, if I knew better Russian, I would be appalled about some of the things. I've even heard some of the things here, like, they used children to, for like blood banks. They rounded up, took the children from the parents, and they used them to, for blood, because children apparently, it's just like the Epstein people, what they were doing. They wanted the children's blood, and that's why you had all these what do you call them, satanic people and cannibals and things like that. And the jerky and grape soda is more than likely the blood. I never saw that. Everybody knows what jerky is. Sick stuff. This class of people, Donald Trump is one of them, and there's no doubt about that. So if Donald Trump knew this stuff, why didn't he do anything? Why didn't he say anything? I don't know. And then he said to Marjorie Taylor Greene that he can't do anything because his friends would get hurt. That's why he wasn't going after the pedophiles, because he didn't want his friends to get hurt. And who are his friends? Like people that like jerky and grape soda and things like that. Think about that. Yes, okay, let's see. So the U.S., they had offshoots of Bandera, and they were using those people, and during the Soviet times, even though you really never heard about that. But I don't know how often it happened, but they were doing assassinations and sabotage work all over through the offshoots that used to be part of the Bandera group. So these people have been around for quite some time, and you got to imagine how that takes to indoctrinate people. The Israelis are heavily indoctrinated. You see this, and they do not even look at Palestinians or Iranians or Arabs, anything, as human beings. They literally call them cockroaches, and they don't even like anybody that is not them, Jewish, like that. The goy, we're the goy, and our lives are of very little value. I think they said something like the fingernail of one Jew is worth more than the lives of 40 goy, 40 of us. So I don't like arrogant people, and that's, sounds like a lot of arrogance to me. But the U.S. is actually very successful, I would say, to a large extent with Ukraine, because they created a country, and you may as well give it the name anti-Russia. It shouldn't be called Ukraine, because that's a Russian word, and it means on the edge. And why do these... You would know that at some point in the future, they're going to get somebody in charge of Ukraine, and they're going to change the name, because it means on the edge. And then you have to ask yourself, well, on the edge of what? It's on the edge of the Russian Empire. That's what Ukraine means. And they hate everything Russia. They destroy everything Russian. Russian culture, you know. And Zelensky has said the thing that keeps him going is his hatred of the Russians. So these people have been heavily indoctrinated, and it's been heavily indoctrination also as well in Israel, you know, to be the master race, God's chosen master race, you know. And I don't know, was Obama trying to say that, saying the Americans were the exceptional people, thinking that they're going to fall for that? I hope not. I really don't like, you know, and how easy it is to manipulate people. And I talk a lot about manipulation. Like I said, you get in classes and stuff, and you don't even know it. The most intelligent people can be easily manipulated. Benjamin Netanyahu says how easy it is to manipulate America. He has said that on numerous occasions. It's very easy to manipulate. And look at Donald Trump, you know, with his IQ. He's one of the most easiest presidents to be manipulated. Oh, I thought he had a, what is he? Oh, yeah, his IQ, you know. Well, who has the lowest IQ of any president in my lifetime? I guess this would be Donald Trump. He was the easiest to be manipulated. Benjamin Netanyahu said that he's been working on this for 40 years, and he finally found a president that's dumb enough to go along with this, and that's our high IQ Donald Trump. Yeah. It's kind of, like I said, projection. You accuse other people of what you yourself are. So he's, you know, the people he calls low IQ, they're probably the more intelligent ones. And look at Donald Trump himself. Who's the stupidest guy? He says America first, and he's the one that's destroying America more than anybody else. Well, what's the stock market doing right now? What about the gasoline prices? What has he done for America just yet? Has he I don't know. Other people could go on a roll much longer than me, but I don't know. I just don't see it. I really don't see it. So anti-Russia. I think that's about all I have to say. You know, I've put up a lot of stuff here. It's all interesting things. It's again over an hour, but I hope it's entertaining for you. Make sure you push that like button. That's really important, because a lot of people don't. I'm noticing, and I notice on a lot of other videos too. You know, some are good, and it's like if you get over 25% of the people that viewed your videos to push the like button, that is really good. I'm not actually, I think I've seen YouTube remove likes for me. I think so. I'm not positive. I know they remove views. Like sometimes, you know, you got 72 views and then you look again 5 minutes later and it's from 72 down to 67. And even people have told me that they say that they saw that I had more views and then I have less views. People unseeing my videos. I don't know why YouTube does this stuff. It's absolutely incredible. You know, but I think I said that in one video, and they actually let that video go. And I think then I got like 500 views or something instead of the usual whatever it might be. And a lot of it, of course, has to do with me. I have to, you know, make a good, what do they call it, thumbnail, and what is the line, whatever that is, you know, like say, Russia enters the war, China blows up Israel, or something like that. You know, so many people do this fake crap on there. I don't know. I don't like to do that. Maybe I should. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.